Hello, everybody. Marcus here. I'm trying something different today. Saw this new technology that's out there. So just bear with me here. I think I'm streaming on a couple different places right now. Facebook on Aroma Time Bistro and my personal Facebook. And I think I might be streaming on YouTube right now. I tried to go with TikTok. I don't think I properly set that up. Hopefully my microphone's working because my microphone gave me problems for the last half an hour and technology. So, wanted to go live this morning. It is Sunday morning, the 17th of August. We have a big wine tasting out back tonight. 12 plus Italian wines in the garden. There's still a couple seats left for that. So if you want to sign up for that, um, go to our homepage of our website at romatimebistro.com. Click the link, the image. It'll take you to an Eventbrite link and go ahead and purchase tickets. And there's food, there's lots of wine. It's $35. It's a great deal. That's tonight. I wanted to talk to you about organic wine. Organic wine is one of the most misunderstood products out there when it comes to the organic world. And Jamie and I, visiting 350 wineries in 6 countries, might know a little bit about wine and the way they grow the grapes and the way they process the grapes and the way they make wine. Just wanted to share with you what we've learned along the way. All right. So, if a lot of people come into the restaurant and they're like, oh, I had this great organic wine at this restaurant, or I get this great organic wine from the shop, and like, well, what's the name of it? And I look it up and I'm like, that's not organic wine. And you'd be surprised that there's not much organic wine out there that as you think there is. So here's the deal with organic grapes, organic wine, certified organic grapes, all that kind of stuff. So just because the grapes are organic does not mean that the wine is organic, right? So let's put this in other terms or make an analogy here. Let's say you were making ice cream and you were making organic ice cream. Well, the milk might be organic, but then once the milk and the cow and everything, all that's done, and the milk goes into the creamery, they're adding conventional sugar, they're adding chemicals, they're adding stabilizers, they're adding other things to that. So the ice cream can't be called organic anymore. They're adding chocolate chips to it that aren't organic. They're adding colorings, maybe make mint chocolate chip, right? So now the end result is not organic. They're adding cookie dough to it, and it's not organic. But it was made with organic milk, right? So a lot of wines have that feature. It says made with organic grapes, organic agriculture, organically grown grapes. There's terminology that they put on there that makes you think that, well, the wine is organic. Okay. So that's not the case. And a lot of wineries, believe it or not, when you're the smaller the winery, more family run the winery, typically, especially when you're going into Europe, folks, you go to these small family wineries that have 50 acres, 25 acres, 100 acres. They live on that land. They're not stupid to pollute their land. Most of them are not that stupid. This is three, four, five generations in. Our families had this for 200 years. We're not going to destroy our land because we live here. It's our land, it's our asset. So they're smart enough, even if they're not certified organic in the vineyards out in the vines, though they're not certified organic out there, they're smart enough not to abuse the soil and abuse their land and their family legacy. Sometimes they will spray something here or there, but typically they use it very cautiously, these small family vineyards, because they know the detriments to the land. However, but once they pick the grapes and they put it into the winery, the first thing they're going to start doing is they're going to start adding non-organic yeast in most cases. Some are natural fermentation, non-organic yeasts. They're going to finish it with sulfites, which are not organic. They're going to add coloring sometimes to these. Now, the smaller the vineyard, the less they're doing this because they're more conscious. But as wineries grow and scale and they become more commercial and the output is more, they have to add more stabilizers, more colorings, more of everything across the board, more fining agents, right? Beer they use isinglass, which is fish bladders. to fine beer. Guinness is known for that. There's all kinds of things that they would put into wine that would make it non-organic. All right, commercial yeasts, right? Lab cultured yeasts are very popular. Um, Thiamine phosphate, enzymes going in, acidifiers, deacidifiers, tartaric acid, calcium carbonate. There's things that go in, sugar. Some wineries will add sugar. I went to a sparkling wine producer. They only make sparkling wines, and I saw a pallet of Domino sugar sitting in the winery, and I'm like, pallet Domino sugar. Domino sugar is not organic, and it's on that part. It's probably GMO, right? Because it's not sugar cane. It's probably coming from beets. And was a very very well known sparkling wine producer. And I got a pallet of Domino sugar there, 50-pound bags or 25-pound bags. Um, some places are going to add oak chips. Now, putting into an oak barrel is different than putting into oak chips. More organic to do an oak barrel than throwing in chips. And sometimes there's flavorings in there and things like that. Um, Mega Purple. Mega Purple is a grape concentrate. Now, Mega Purple, if you're using a grape juice concentrate, it's for color. Well, how inorganic could that be? You're right. Um, as long as it's certified organic, then it's organic. But if it's not certified organic, which means that the juice that they're using to reduce to make a coloring needs to be certified from the fields. And if that's not, then your wine's not organic anymore, right? So the wine producers know that it's important to us as consumers that, well, maybe we do want higher quality, better quality. Maybe do want the word organic. Maybe do want the word sustainable. Maybe we want that somewhere incorporated in to it. So, of course, if they're doing that, they're going to put it on the label. But there's some examples where they don't even put stuff like camera. This wine here, Corte St. Alda. This wine here, we've been to the winery twice. I got to tell you, she is super organic, biodynamic. Um, she's got it going on there. I mean, the sheep are out there, everything super strict. So the way she's growing out there, the wines are indeed organic or biodynamic. But she doesn't have anything even on her label. And again, it's her land. She's smart. She's not abusing her land. But maybe she feels she doesn't need to put it on her label to say that she's organic or biodynamic. And then when it goes into the winery, she's not adding those funky stabilizers, and it's going to be more wild yeast as opposed to lab grown yeast. In reality, this wine is a really legit wine when it comes to checking the boxes off for being organic all around, but there's no certification or anything on here. Again, small winery. But then when you look at some of those bigger brands, they're popping those terms on there, made with organic grapes, sustainable, part of this coalition, part of the salmon safe, whatever it is, part of this or part of that. So beware, just because it's organic grapes does not mean it's organic wine. And to be certified organic wine, for the whole process, you need a certification, a USDA certification, which is then going to mean none of that other stuff. No. See, here's where it's tricky because they allow sulfites in certain certified organic wines and not in others. If the wine's being made in the United States, there's zero added sulfites. And some wineries take it a step further where they test the natural sulfites. Says wine has natural sulfites, strawberry has sulfites, sole fish has sulfites, right? Everything has sulfites in it, much different levels. So the sulfites are a preservative to help the wine last longer, stay fresher, and not have secondary fermentations in the bottles and bacteria and all that kind of stuff. So the wine, it helps the wine live longer. However, there are producers that are not adding sulfites, they're relying upon the natural sulfites. And there's certain producers that say, well, no, we don't want any sulfites in our wine, like Frey Vineyards in California. And they actually wait until sulfites dissipate naturally in the wine and then bottle it and label it at 0 parts per million, less than 1, and sulfite, no sulfites whatsoever. So there's no sulfites, means no natural sulfites, and there's no added sulfites, which means the wine has the naturally occurring sulfites. This can be very confusing. This is why so many people are confused. When people come to me, oh, I had this organic wine, and it was sulfite free, and I can drink it because there's no sulfites in it, and this and that. And look at the wine, I'm like, that's the farthest wine from being organic. I'm going to talk about the sulfites in a minute here, okay? Thanks for tuning in, by the way. If you're tuning in, just drop a comment, say hello, drop a comment where you're tuning in from. It always helps. If it's live, hashtag live. It's on the replay, hashtag replay. If you have questions, I can see the questions on the Aroma Time fan page platform. I can't see it on mine though, for some reason. So I'm streaming from two different devices here right now. So if the wine's imported from Europe and it's getting the organic certification on it, and it gets that final USDA approval on it, they're allowed to put sulfites. I don't know if it's for the shipping reasons. I'm not sure what it is, but they're allowed to put like 100 parts per million for red and 110 parts per million for white. All right. Yes, white wine gets more sulfites. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So it's really confusing. You'll pick up a bottle of Spanish wine that's certified organic, says certified organic all across it, and it has sulfites. Bottle of American, certified organic across the board, no added sulfites. And then you see something with, well, no added sulfites, and you see something with 0 sulfites. So all this is confusing. I hope this lays out for you. I'm going to edit this video down into some shorter versions, so hopefully you can just scroll through it in 3, 4, 5 minutes and say, okay, here's what I want out of this. Now, sulfites. A lot of people think they're allergic to sulfites. So I have a sulfite allergy. I can't have red wine. I'm like, you just gave me a key when you said you can't drink red wine, but you can drink white wine and you have sulfites. So red wines have tannins in them. They have more tannins. The tannins come from the grape skins. The grape skins are the outer protector. They are the protector of the grape. That's their first line of defense, right? Our skin is our first line of defense. On a grape world, it's the grape skin, first line of defense, that has built up tannins as a part of protection, antioxidants, tannins. So when they juice, crush the grapes, they're breaking the skins. Now, in red wine, they have to keep the skins on the juice. So, for example, this is Chardonnay right here. This is Chardonnay. It's orange, right? This is called an orange wine. No orange in here, by the way. No oranges, but it's called an orange wine. So she took Chardonnay, or Garganega. Actually, maybe certified. It doesn't say. So this is skin contact. So typically for like a Chardonnay, Chardonnay is pressed and the skins are removed right away, which has tannins in it. And then the wine is made from that point. Pinot Noir has a red skin, but a white flesh. You juice it, you pull the skins off, and you have a white champagne. Pinot Noir is one of the main grapes, Pinot Meunier and Pinot Noir and Champagne, which is white. If you leave the skins in the juiced Pinot Noir juice and the grape juice, you get a red wine. If you leave it in for an hour, you'll get a rosé wine. If you leave it in for several days and part of the fermentation, you're going to get a full out red Pinot Noir. Same thing with Zinfandel. Zinfandel can be made white, rosé, or red. Merlot, you see a rosé of Merlot because they're taking the skins out very early in the pressing process. Most grapes, if they have a red skin, have white juice. Okay, so the coloring comes from those skins. So you drop the skins in, leave the skins in. The skins have tannins. Tannins build up in the wine. Tannins are a natural preservative in red wine. Because the tannins are a natural preservative means you don't need to add as much sulfites. White wines do not have the skin contact, thus they're not getting the infusion of tannins, and they're allowed to put more tannins in sulfites into white wine. Thus, the certification allows for more tannins in whites because it doesn't have the natural tannin protector. So when people say I'm allergic to sulfites, can only drink white wines, I say I don't think it's the sulfites you're having a problem with, it's the tannins you're having a problem with. And here's the test on how to do this. It's the apricot test. So I was talking about parts per million in wine, like 100 parts per million, 110 parts per million, whether they use 150 parts per million sulfites, whatever it is. If you go to the store and buy those bright yellow apricots, right? Those apricots have like 2,000 parts per million of sulfites because that's how they retain their color. A lot of dried fruits and vegetables like sun-dried tomatoes have sulfites in them to help preserve the color. All right. So now you take that apricot at 2,000 parts, 2,500 parts per million, and you eat that. If you're having a reaction to that apricot, you have a sulfite issue. If you're not going to have a reaction to that apricot, you're not having a sulfite issue, you're having a tannin issue with the wines. Now, the good news is some red wine, if you, let's say you love red wine and you can't drink red wine, certain red wines have less tannins. You can probably do a quick Google search or do a Chat GPT search for the red wines with the least amount of tannins. And there are some variables for this. For example, they're probably going to tell you Pinot Noir has the least amount of tannins, right? But if you pick the grapes at night in cool weather, they're going to have even less tannins. Okay. Time of day makes a difference. Whether the wine is 2 years old or whether the wine is 5 years old makes a difference because as the wine ages in the bottle, the tannins start to dissipate, which is part of the aging process of wine. Now, be careful because all wines do not age. Don't think because you went to California, France, or the Finger Lakes that you can pick up any old bottle of wine and put it away in your cellar, in your basement, in the refrigerator, in a corner, and go back to it in 5 or 10 years. I've made that mistake early on. Went to France, bought some wines that were not meant to age, brought a couple bottles back, and went to open them on some special occasions. And we had some very matterized wine. It was terrible. And I was like, oh my gosh, I spent all this money on this Burgundy wine that didn't age or this wine that didn't age. So most wines don't age. Wines are produced and meant to be consumed young. The winemakers love that because you're going to drink their wine and buy more as opposed to holding it and maybe buying more to put more in the cellar and stockpiling. But more people drink wine than stockpile wine. So most wines are made to consume young and fresh. For example, rosé. Somebody tasted me the other day on a rosé, a salesperson, and I said, "This is the 2023 vintage. Why don't you have the 2024 vintage?" And they go, "Well, this is what we're pushing right now, the 2023." I tasted it. I said, "It's good, nothing wrong with it, but it's not as bright as the 2024 because I've had the 2024. The 2024 is a bit brighter, much more fruit in it." And he's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, it's a fresher wine. The 2023 rosé is, and if you look at certain distributors right now, you can buy 2022 rosés for $1 a bottle, 2023 rosés for two, three, four, $5 a bottle because all these past rosés are on closeout. The new harvest is coming to 2025, and soon by February we're gonna have 2025s on the shelves. So if these distributors, these vendors, these wholesalers are looking at massive quantities of rosé still from 2023 and they're not through their 2024 yet, and we're coming up to the 2025 vintage starting in February and March, there's some amazing deals out there on rosés that are 1 to 2 years old, but they're not as fresh and bright as 1 year newer. So same thing with Chardonnays and Sauvignon Blancs and all these types of they're just much brighter wines. Now certain wines are made to age, whether they're white, red. Some rosés are meant to age, but there's not many out there that are. And typically, when a wine goes to needs to this aging process, you're going to know it because you're going to feel it in your pocketbook. Your wallet is going to feel the ouch because these wines are made bigger and bolder, more oak in them, possibly, maybe a little bit of higher alcohol. The wines are just made a bit differently for the aging process versus the consumption process. All right. But just because the wine can even age doesn't mean it can age for 10 or 15 or 20 years. I just lost 2 bottles of a really high end Chardonnay. Lost 2 bottles that was on our wine list, and I should have enjoyed them 5 years ago, and I hadn't enjoyed one of the bottles 5 years ago. And a couple was in for their anniversary, and they said a lot of people come in, they just trust me. They say, "Here's my budget, whatever you're picking tonight, it's great. You have an interesting wine list, the most interesting wine list I've ever seen. Just pick something." So I picked them this nice California Chardonnay, Rivals Kistler. Rivals Kistler. I think it's better than Kistler in certain vintages. And I had one that was 16, 17 years old. And I was like, "Oh, I'll pull this out for them." I opened it up. And as soon as I smelled the cork, I was like, "Oh, I bet there's trouble in this wine." They tasted it. I got a glass and I'm like, "It's not right." He was like, "No, it's not right." So I had one more bottle. And this is wine I paid 60, 70, $80 for years ago. Years ago. And the second bottle, I was like, "Okay, I have one more bottle." So I stuck the Corvan needle in it. Stuck the Corvan needle in it. I tasted it. Totally different wine than the first one. Not matterized. But I'm like, you know what? Even though this wine is there's nothing really wrong with it, I don't think it really aged. I think it's hit its peak. Hit its peak and it's gone. So I did not sell it. That wine is going to sangria, that second bottle. Um, I probably should have opened it up and enjoyed it, but it still wasn't something that was like, okay, rate this to tea. When you brew tea, every tea, whether it's herbal, black, green, white, whatever herb it is, has a sweet spot of the maximum amount of flavor extraction and the temperature, right? So does espresso, right? If you take the wrong beans and put them into an espresso machine and try to make espresso, you're not going to get good espresso. You put if it's not enough pressure pushing through, if the grind's not right, you're going to get a different quality espresso. That's why everything makes different. Turkish ground, espresso ground, regular ground, everything makes a difference. The pressure, the time, everything. So when you soak a tea leaves or tea bag or sachet, at 7 minutes you're going to get your optimal flavor, and then maybe at 12 minutes, it's not bad, but it's not like it was at 7 minutes. And most of us would never know the difference unless you're a tea connoisseur and you've done the experiments, you've seen it. But after 20 minutes, you might say, okay, after 20 minutes, that tea bag, it's that tea's just not what it should be soaking for 20 minutes. And there's a difference between steeping tea and boiling tea, right? So that wine wasn't really bad, the second bottle, but it wasn't what I felt it should have been, especially for somebody's anniversary. So then we picked them another wine, and they were super happy with the next wine. We picked one of my favorite Chardonnays from Mexico. I gave them Chateau Camus. So you just never know how long a wine is going to age. And maybe that wine had been compromised when I thought I had stored it correctly along the way. Who knows? Maybe if I had stored it better, it might be better. Who knows? There's so many variables in wine, but the main point is, if you're going to age wine, you need to know exactly what you're doing. There's certain wines that age very easily. Vintage port, and it's a great investment because when there's a really good year in Portugal, they make vintage port. Other than that, it's NV. It's non-vintage. It's just tawny ruby. Maybe it's a 10-year tawny because they're aging it more. But if it's a 1986 port, a 1991, a 1997, 2000, whatever vintage, if they put the vintage date on it, that means this is a superior year and it's an amazing product. And we have a lot of port that we've been aging that I don't even have on my menu yet because they're all vintage ports. At some point, I guess I should put out a menu that has vintage ports, but it's by the bottle. They're big bottles. I guess at some point in my lifetime, I'll enjoy these amazing vintage ports that we've been saving and cellaring. So yeah, so just understand the difference in aging wines. Folks, that's about it for now. It's 9:40 a.m. Like I said, we do have some tickets left for tonight. For our wine event tonight is 12 Wines in the Garden. This wine wasn't on the lineup, but I might open this wine too because it's on my desk. There's another wine that I really wanted to open. It's just so many wines, so many wines. And honestly, this time I put my wine list into Perplexity, the AI tool, and I said, do me a favor, because I go through and I look and I look and I analyze, overanalyze. I put in Perplexity and said, here's my wine list. Pick me 12 wines between these price points, um, and with a couple other factors, and generate me all those wines. And it generated me a bunch of wines, and I just went through and I actually generated me 2 pages of wines. So I just went through with the highlighter, and William, who works for us, I said, William, just pull these 12 bottles of wine. These are the wines for the wine tasting. But I'm looking, and then I saw, when I was grabbing this bottle this morning, I saw another one. I'm like, oh boy, I want to open this other bottle for this tasting. So there'll probably be more than 12 bottles. Probably, yeah. For $35, it's a bargain. We've been to every winery that we're representing today out back in the garden. If it inclement weather, we'll be under the tent. If it's really bad weather, then we'll be inside. But it's 12 wines. You get food with it. You get food with this. I'm getting ready to sous vide some sirloin steaks, some pasta, some meatballs, some cheeses. I bought a special cheese for today. I got a truffle pecorino, and I bought a special manchego. Maybe I bought not it's not Italian, but I got this really cool manchego cheese that I wanted to share with you. It's sherry cask aged, so they age the manchego cheese, which is a Spanish sheepshead cheese, actually in sherry barrels. And there's no sherry in there, but they age them in, and that fresh perfume of all the wine seeps into the rind. And I was able to get that last week from a distributor that had a few of those specials. I said, oh, let me buy it. I'll figure out what to do with it. That today's the day for that. So $35 in the garden today, 5 to 8 o'clock. You can pop in at 4:30. You can pop in at 5:30, 6 o'clock. It's not going to be a formal sit down. It's going to be at a table, and I'm there pouring like I do. Those tastings seem to be the most popular, where we're not stuck in sitting down and you get course by course and this a little bit of this wine, a little bit of that wine. If you don't like red wines, don't drink any of the red wines today. Stay focused on the whites. If you want to do just reds, do just reds. It's up to you, and that's why these informal tasting events are so popular. right, folks, that's it. Got to get going. Everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you later.